House of the Dragon episode 7. For starters, let's have another look at this scene of Daemon being a creepy groomer uncle. This is not okay, Daemon. That's your niece. So, they're taking a stupid risk by kissing out in the open on a beach. Is that a problem? Well, this is something that goes right back to my review of episode 1, where I pointed out the reckless risks that Daemon and the princess consistently took. So this may seem like a stupid and reckless thing to do, and it is. But in context of the show, for this pair, that's entirely in character. What else can we say about it? I saw a lot of people commenting that they had a problem with the lighting in this scene and quite a few others. Much like late Game of Thrones, people are saying that they struggled to even make out what was going on. And now I look, the thumbnail that I took of creepy Daemon and his niece, it's barely bright enough to make out what's going on. And talking of making out, Daemon, put your niece down. This is not Doctor Who, and your niece is not a fish finger. Now, in my Rings of Power reviews, I've been contrasting the positive social lessons that a person can draw from the work of Tolkien and what seem like the very bad lessons that Rings of Power has to offer. And that got me thinking, is House of the Dragon a socially good thing? Was Game of Thrones? They both deliver a lot of drama. Unlike many other shows, the heroes and the villains are a lot more ambiguous, and in doing that, it has a ring of truth about it. House of the Dragon maybe goes even further in this than Game of Thrones did. Thrones at least had Ned Stark with his honour and duty, his loyalty. It had Robb, who was brave and bold. There's just nobody in this show that's a positive role model or aspirational in any way to anybody. Everyone is just kind of self-interested. And I'm not sure this level of nihilism is either a social good or necessarily healthy. If you want me to talk about that more or disagree, drop a comment below. So I left the last part at Lena's funeral, and Jace has been sent over to comfort Lena's daughters. Jace is conflicted, too embarrassed to say anything. He knows Harwin was his father, so he doesn't feel a link to the girls. He doesn't feel like he belongs at the funeral. I was saying that even if Laenor is not his father, he is still related to the girls. They're not his first cousins like they would be if he was Laenor's son. They're not the first cousins via Lena and Laenor, but they are still related because the girl's father is the boy's mother's uncle. So that would make them whatever that is. I looked it up because nobody told me. I think they may be first cousins once removed. I wonder how it works with Targaryens. Do you get arranged marriages between third cousins met with strong disapproval from older members of the family saying, "That's sick"? I know. Couldn't they find a closer relative? I mean, you wouldn't want the bloodlines to get impure by actually having functional genetics. One of the girls reaches out and grabs his hand, and they're doing some very good visual storytelling again. It shows a strong bond between them, but in truth, I have no idea what the relationship of these characters is. Have they even ever met before? If so, it was off camera again. Speaking of which, the engagement of Alicent's eldest son to her daughter, that happened off camera too. The proposal that the princess made to wed Alicent's daughter to her son, and the disagreement between the king and the queen that occurred because of that, stone me, that seems to have disappeared, also off camera. Eamon wants to approach as well and give comfort, but he's too awkward. He's sullen and none of the other kids seem to like him. I have no idea why again, this may come as a shock, but any reasons for that happening happened off camera. Just so much of the story gets lost in the time jumps. Otto finds Aegon, his grandson, passed out from drinking too much wine and boots him to wake him up before scolding him and sending him off to bed. Now, if Alicent and the king had any sense at all, they would have bundled Aegon off to go and stay with his grandfather so he didn't turn into a spoiled brat. He may even have made a serviceable king out of him. But this is more of a problem. Daemon and the princess being reckless, that's entirely in their character. But what's Otto's character? He wants power, he wants legacy, he wants the throne for his family, and Aegon being like that is ruining the chances of Otto getting what he wants. So why would he tolerate this? This is a problem because it seems to go against the core motivations of Otto's character. I've been thinking more about how the king could avoid the looming civil war. If the country really will rebel if a female monarch is installed, he has to remove his daughter as heir. He's got no choice. Maybe replace her with one of her sons. He could have gone with one of his sons, but they're both disasters. The princess's offer of marriage of her eldest son to the king's eldest daughter in retrospect seems like the best choice. If the country really will rebel with a female monarch, grant her the marriage on the condition that her son become heir to the throne instead of her. All the big players will be satisfied and war hopefully averted. You could have easily done that, House of the Dragon. Just do it off camera and then tell me what happened later. That's the ideal way to capture drama. This show is getting glowing reviews and I'm still just finding it okay. It has some very good moments, some issues, but it's very far from perfect. I think some people may be giving it an easy ride just because of how bad Rings of Power, She-Hulk and just entertainment in general has gotten. But different people look for different things. A friend of mine watched this episode and he said he thought it was very good. I asked why and he said, and I quote, "It has some good dragon action." Speaking of which, Alicent's son Eamon has slinked off. At first I was thinking he was going to find his uncle grinding on his mom. Instead he found a massive dragon, which is arguably less scary and psychologically damaging. It's Lena's dragon Vhagar who now doesn't have a rider. And he really wants a dragon, so he rides the dragon and claims it and nearly falls from the saddle to his death. The other kids are woken up by the enormous noise of the dragon, and when Eamon lands, he's confronted by Lena's kids and the princess's boys. A fight breaks out because one of the girls wants to claim the dragon instead of him, and embarrassingly for this show, this is probably the best fight in the series yet. That's right, 5 kids squabbling in a cave is the best fight in the show so far. Eamon is largely winning against the smaller other 4 children and taunts the boys for not being their father's true children. One of them pulls out a knife and boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. As Eamon is about to beat someone's skull in with a rock, the princess's youngest son slashes him in the face, popping his eye with a knife. And that's when everything hits the fan. But for now, I'm out of time. So there's going to have to be a part 3 tomorrow, I guess.